Actually, before I play the opening video, I just want to say I was at the Melbourne Cup protest today with with all the second class citizens. If you're in this video, you want to be taken out, just let me know. Otherwise, if you want to tag yourself, you're on Facebook and YouTube. I really enjoyed your company, but we're going to talk about the day now and the bill. So I'm just going to play the video. So yeah, thank you for a lovely day, even though there's a strange sadness. Damien's having the night off, so I'm going to introduce my guest. One of my favorite guests is the Golden Gadi, who never loses his shine. And of course, there's Dr. Catherine Cumming, MP, who I spent the day with, also in the trench. And just before I start, I just want to say, Gadi got up and had to speak to everyone was speaking. And Gadi got up and had to speak today, and he looked at everyone was talking the same stuff, and they're good speakers. But Gadi came up and said, if this bill gets through, then you people are in a lot of trouble. You could all be detained for 2 years. And that's why I did that video. I just thought that was the most profoundly moving bit of honesty in the whole day. So thanks, Gadi.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
That's very amazing.
I just before you start, Catherine, I want to just make this admission to our listeners, to you, Catherine. Michael knows my feeling. I got up yesterday and I told my partner I actually feel depressed because I've been running around for the last few days inside. I'm actually crying inside. I don't know why I can't bring the tears out, but I can't. And I'm literally crying inside. I'm going through the most sad part of my life, to have come to this point in my life, to see this. And what I mean by seeing this, I'm talking about the destruction of the social fabric that we're used to living under, and to the basic the basic rights. I mean, bear in mind, I've been practicing law for 42 years. So I've been in up to my neck in law. I've been to the High Court twice. I've done every jurisdiction. I know what I'm talking about in law. But when I see this, what I'm seeing now, I don't know what to do anymore. I'm literally crying inside, and I'm completely distraught. And that's me. Maybe I'm seeing more than the ordinary person in the street is seeing because they're not aware. But I know the people there today see it, but there's so many out there that they're too busy sitting around sipping their Chardonnays in cafes, Catherine, to realise that it's coming after them. And that's, in that sense, I've got to give credit where it's due, even though I regard Andrews as a megalomaniac. He has managed to divide and conquer. That's what this is all about. He's divided us as a society, and he's conquered anyone who's opposed to him, because you know what it's like. You get your moment of freedom. Everyone's been locked up for so long. Suddenly in the sunshine, it's a beautiful day. We're having meals, fish and chips, partying. But that's a momentary glimpse of what's coming next if this gets through. And
I had two people approach me today, parents with teenage children, and they both said that they wake up in the morning hoping that in the evening their child hasn't taken their life, because they simply don't want to be a part of this world. Yep. That is the world that Dan Andrews is creating with these things, and everyone out there celebrating. This is what we're creating for our children. And that's why that opening quote, this woman was speaking to me. She goes, I'm not very articulate and I'm double vaxxed and everyone's telling me I should be happy, but my guts are screaming that everything's wrong. And that was a beautiful quote.
Yeah. Let's talk about the bill, Catherine. Tell us, you're the person we need to listen to at the moment. So go for it.
I don't know if I even want to talk about it. It's just so disgusting. There's nothing in it that you would normally see. The language that is used is not the language that I have seen in the last 3 years or any of the bills.
Just specify to the listeners what you mean by that.
Well, it's more around just how the language is extremely loose.
Vague, you mean?
Vague, but vague. Right. It could be interpreted in different ways.
That's deliberate. That's very deliberate.
Correct, as well as there's no finality to it. So the Health and Wellbeing Act currently, and I've said this when I spoke on that bill when they extended the state of emergency. So I'm not legally trained, Gadi. I'm not. I'm a doctor of Chinese medicine. So for myself, yes, I've been reading bills. Like I know the Local Government Act back to front. I know planning. I was in local government for 21 years.
Yes.
You understand the things that when you need them, like family court and those kind of things and divorce. But when last year, for the first time that I read from front to back the Public and Health Wellbeing Act, and as a practitioner, I could understand the layman reading it, and it uses the word detain all the time, where the language of a practitioner or a doctor would use language like you're an involuntary patient or a voluntary patient.
That's right.
But the word detain is obviously a legal word and has a legal meaning. So that's why it's used throughout the bill. So that was very hard for myself to get it through.
Get your head around it?
Yeah, well, because I'm a very common sense, black and white, read it, practical. You know what I mean? I
think what you're trying to say, to put it into legal language, the way I understand it, and I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I'll just read.
No, not at all.
I'm thinking of the listeners now when I'm saying all these things. Legislation, every word in legislation counts. Everything is there. It's either
and for me, and I'll give you my layman term over it. I can see when it says the word must or should. Or
must
may.
It's two different meanings, right?
That's right. So you've got to look at the connecting words.
I'll explain that. Must is mandatory and shall is depending on the circumstances. So so every word, every comma, absolutely every comma and full stop counts. Give you a practical example. I can say, let's eat grandma. Now, if I say, let's eat, comma, grandma, it means, hey, let's eat, come on, grandma. Or if I take the comma out, let's actually eat grandma herself. So every word, the High Court to determine separately, this is a state. We have 3 levels of government here. This is a state level.
We're debating this.
We're debating a bill that's raised in the state of Victoria. Now, the thing is, that in answer to what you were saying, Catherine, When a bill is drawn with vague language, it means it's open to interpretation in a variety of ways. Now, that's the first problem. The second point to make in all of this is that
no end dates.
One of the problem with this bill altogether is that there are no checks and balances. Checks and balances means that everything needs to be cross-checked, checked off. There has to be somebody on the other side to say no to it. And
oversight.
So it's, for example, not even that. It has to go to a committee who then has to go to an officer who has to go to the chamber. It has to get passed by the House and the upper house. That's called checks and balances. When all those powers are removed, democracy is removed. And what happens then is that the person who's the decision maker makes all decision by dictate. And that's what this bill does. Exactly what it's vague deliberately, and it vests all power exclusively, virtually exclusively, in the hands of Dan Andrews. Just let me finish 1 second.
Sorry.
There are it's 100 pages long, 130 pages long. There are a number of places where it says that it has to go through procedural steps before the decision is made. But they're all rubber stamps. They're meaningless steps. That's what I describe as obfuscation or virtue signaling, or to put it in pub language, bullshit. The truth is that all power vests in Dan Andrews' exclusive hands, unfettered discretion. That is a major problem. And that's where society has made a shift. It's a disgrace that only 23 QCs got up and said something about it, and they did it at the 11th hour. All very nice that they did, better late than never, but it's a disgrace because there are 4,000 barristers who have still got their mouths shut.
Before we move on, can we just make it clear then from what you're saying, Gadi, that if this goes through, this is the end of democracy?
In my eyes, it's the end of democracy because so much power vests with this person, and we've already seen that this person is a megalomaniac in his behaviour. He doesn't care. He has implemented fear. He's used police in the most, like militia. It's like a private militia. They're unaccountable in what they do. They constantly harass and coerce in their style. They use media as a propaganda machine to make anybody who disagrees with them as bad people, which is such a wrong strategy to do. But it's classic strategy for anyone who tries to dictate, right? But anyway, sorry to interrupt you. You carry on now.
No. So we're both seeing it the same way. So
yeah, we are.
I know the connecting word. So I've you know what I mean. I've been to kangaroo courts before, and I've said no. That says should. It's not doesn't say must, and it says may. So I understand that. I see it as almost like the Holy Trinity. You've got the Premier on one, like the triangle. You've got the Premier, then you've got the Health Minister, and then you've got the Chow. It's like a little triangle. That's what I see. Yes, and within this bill, it sends it off to a committee that they control.
That's right.
So it's like you said, that's a rubber stamp.
It's meaningless. The committee can be overruled, and no one has to listen to what the committee says.
Correct.
And you don't even know what the committee will say publicly. It won't be announced publicly. Yep.
No, and it's a tick the box process, as in it's virtual signalling that there is oversight when really there isn't.
There is none at all.
And for myself, I don't know about you, but I haven't seen the word Premier used in any piece of legislation. Do you know of any?
Previously, you're talking about?
Yeah.
Previously, no, I haven't either.
No. So not normal because you would normally, it's all democracy, isn't it? So even with, say, the Local Government Act, it mentions
any one person. It never vests.
No, it has language around, say, the mayor and the councillors and their roles. So it actually describes what the mayor has to do and the obligations and what that actually means. It doesn't actually define the Premier and his obligations.
No.
So in the Local Government Act, there's more checks and balances than this. So I, for my knowledge, so I don't see that. Then I don't see the accountability and the transparency. And yes, they say it goes to this itty-bitty committee, but in my mind, in, say, if you were looking at a corporate structure, or even if you were looking at, say, local government, in my mind, if I was to change this, you would actually send it down. Okay, so we're hitting a pandemic at the moment. What you would want is the best of each field independently to set up. So that would be your oversight committee, because in my mind, what happened even in the local government, the Health and Wellbeing Act, it has a section in there. It talks about councillors. They talk about them being authorised officers. It talks about how a council can make an authorised officer really quickly, because you should know that local government is an arm of the state government. In other words, a couple of 100 years ago, when someone wanted a gold miner's license, rather than, there was no cars, you'd catch a horse, you'd pay in Ballarat, and then someone would grab the money and bring it to the parliament like taxes. So it's set up in a way that the council, like during this pandemic, why didn't they use all the community centres? Because they're there. Historically, in like when there was a depression, that's what was used. You use your health officers from the council.
Well,
you
remember,
use the 700 staff.
We just
they
had
set it up.
Last Friday we had Gladys Berejiklian overheard at the ICAC committee, and in the transcript that she was tape recorded as speaking to her former boyfriend and co-minister, a fellow called Maguire, and he said something about there was going to be the purchase of some $170 million asset for Wagga Wagga as a payback, and he said to her, but the bureaucrats are not supporting it. They won't do it. And to which she said, "Oh, I can overrule them. I can overrule them." That I say that to this committee. That's exactly, this committee is a nothing committee. It's a nothing burger, right?
It means
absolutely nothing. The only committee that counts, as far as I'm concerned, is all the members in the Legislative Council and the Legislative Assembly standing there and voting, where we can see who's voting what, so we can make decisions in the when we go to the voting booths to decide about what to do. That's the only numbers that interest me. I really don't care what some committee bureaucrat has to say. I've been through too many bureaucrats over the years. So I think...
sorry.
What I just want to ask you, though, is this. You're in the parliament. You're there all the time. You see all these guys, men, ladies, in the council and in the assembly. So you get to know them. You have coffee, you have a meal. Yeah. I want to know what the mood is down there. I want to know, and it crosses party lines, because you know what it's like when you're sitting having a hamburger with somebody there having coffee. The business with the Labor, Liberal, Independent, doesn't much matter. Conversations are conversations. What's the mood? What's going on over there? Tell us, because we're on the outside, don't know.
The mood. Yeah. Well, how would I describe the mood? Well, how about I describe Parliament? And from my perspective, So when I first got here, it just felt like you were going to a high school and you were the new kid, and there were cliques. Yeah, you had the cool kids, you had the ones that dress better than you or what have you. So there's cliques. Then the mood at the moment, I feel that over the pandemic, every time that we've resat, there's been a different mood. So I've sensed at times like a sense of panic. I've come in, and you can see that they're out of control. They don't know what's going on. But this time round, since I've been back in the last sittings, they are really calm and happy. They're very happy, but it's like this last lockdown hasn't affected them. They don't look frazzled, or they all look quite happy.
So what's going on in mind? The three so-called independents.
Michael, honestly, the times that I've seen the Premier at the presses, he looks fresh as a daisy, and I feel like I've just been dragged through the pits. Like, I come with the weight of my community on my shoulder. I haven't slept much. I've read, when I was given that email at like 9 o'clock at night on the Thursday to be told that if you didn't hand in your paperwork, you weren't going to get. I didn't sleep. I mean, we marched around like we were so angry. We were like, "What are we going to do?" We had like a week to think about it.
Catherine, why are those three independents? The Animal Party, the Greens, and Fiona.
Before we go there, Gadi, can we just take an audience question?
Yeah, sure.
Donkey Kong, I don't think that's your real name, is Gadi. Who can detain us?
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, well, what happens is when a bill is passed, after the bill is passed, they then pass regulations. And the regulations are the nuts and bolts on how things are actually mechanised. They haven't yet produced the regulations, so I'm not quite sure who is going to detain us. But if you go with logic, it would follow that it would be somebody appointed by government. It could be police. It could be a police under a different name, like, for example, the people who are in railway stations, that kind of person. But basically, they'll be able to detain us anytime, anywhere, right? If today I was in the park saying what I was saying, they could detain me. Sorry, Catherine, you want to put your hand up?
And I think that might be a better way than me trying to talk over the top of you.
Sorry.
But so currently they've got what they call authorised officers, and you're right, PSOs. But now there's new language like COVID marshals.
Yeah.
So that's how it would actually operate, and it's a bit like the Occupational Health and Safety Act. You could, do a course, and or a prison officer.
But their powers are incredibly high and draconian. It's a little bit different from other officers. It's even worse than a policeman's officer's power. They can literally take you, put you in this resilience centre, a re-education camp, and you are stuck. You're going nowhere. And you can't run to court to get review. You are going to be there until they say otherwise. That kind of power is just beyond belief. Go ahead.
Yep. And Ghazi, that's where, when you look at the original Health and Wellbeing Act, it works in the way that you've got like 28 days.
Yes.
They talk about being detained. So if you were going into hospital and you were having an episode, that's how you become a voluntary patient and a non-voluntary patient. It's under the Mental Health Act. But the language within the bill doesn't say involuntary or voluntary.
That's right.
But it clearly shows that there's 28 days, and it clearly also has a process of how you could, dispute your detainment or your involuntary medical when they take you in. And I don't see any of those measures, as in you would believe that within 28 days you can get someone's health condition under control.
Yep.
When you have nothing, like you have an infinite amount of time, so what? 30 days before you recover, 60 days before you recover,
that's
90
right. That's
days.
The point.
That's the point. So the point is that vast majority of viruses, from it's 10 days, 14 days, maybe 3 weeks, 21 days, 28 days, you should be fresh as a daisy. So where's the dates? Where's the triggers?
So basically, from a really, like, from a layman, like a dog's point of view, I'm just getting really Bill for dummies here.
Yeah, that's
basically you're detained without a trial, because you don't need a trial, because you're basically, they're just detaining you for your health, and it could be for as long as they want, almost at Her Majesty's pleasure. And I've heard that, and I don't know if this is true, that if you actually found out that they're wrong, there's no recourse. There's nothing you can do about it. Is that correct?
Yes. And because, say, currently they can do that, but it's normally, and this is what I argued at the last state of emergency, you normally have a health professional who has that extensive knowledge. So when you go into the emergency room at any hospital and you are having, I keep giving the example of a mental health episode, normally you have the expert that it's the doctor goes, okay, put you over there, the nurse, and then you have someone who comes and assesses you to be able to make that judgment. Now, you need a level of training, you need a level of seeing all of those patients to actually have the ability to possibly give it to someone who's just done a weekend course, like a security course, like 2 days or what have you, and they have the ability. And then you change that security guard to a different name. You call them a COVID marshal, or, pick a name. Pandemic officer. You really, within the Act, you want the definition. So you want the definitions of a pandemic. If he can just call a pandemic, okay, I'll call it the climate change pandemic.
Well, let's just pause there for a moment. Let's just pause there for a moment. There's two things you've said there that I think I need to just put meat on the bones. Number one is that, for me, it's not just about how qualified this marshal is or is not. I really don't care if it's a brain surgeon or if it is just a one weekend certificate from the cornflakes box. What I'm concerned about more than anything else is people being rounded up by their so-called characteristics willy-nilly, anywhere, anytime. That is that totalitarianism. That's no better than the Gestapo waltzing up. We're taking you. We have a suspicion. Doesn't matter what our suspicion is. Off we go. Let's go. That's that. So I don't care if he's Dr. Goebbels, the best doctor in the land, or if he happens to be, Johnny Thug from down the road. Same difference. The whole power is obscene to begin with, is what I'm saying. Correct. Right? Yeah, no, how it's administered, okay, we agree. The second meat on the bone is this. The second meat on the bone is this, that the Premier can call a pandemic anytime. Now, what does that mean, call a pandemic anytime? It's undefined. What it means is, to put it into English, if some little 6-year-old in the back swamp of Africa decides to fart and Premier says, okay, that's a pandemic. He doesn't have to get any opinion from anybody. No, he can consult with Cho. He can consult with the Minister for Health. Now, let me pause here for a moment. Ministers for Health are no different from anybody else. They've never done a medical degree, most of them. They just happen to be elected politicians. So their opinion means zippo to me. And the Cho, he works under the thumb. He does exactly what he's told. So there's nothing independent in all of that. So all of a sudden, the Premier can call a pandemic, just like that, out of the blue. And we're stuck with lockdowns, the more and more and more and more and more. And there's no scrutiny of any of this. It's insane.
Is there a list of rights that the people who are detained have? Is there anything like?
Nope.
Nothing.
That'll happen in the future.
Yeah, of course. It's always in the future.
Like the regulations, the
There's
detail
no
is
rights.
later. There's no
There are no rights for this. I'm telling you in the plainest of language, this is a playbook from the Communist Manifesto or the Nazi Manifesto. It is totalitarianism 101. I don't know what else to call it.
Before we go on, I just want to clear one thing up. When I was on the steps this week, I think it's Joel, who is a protester. He was telling me, as far as he's concerned, or lots of people are concerned, and maybe the mass media is peddling this, I don't know, I don't watch it, that this bill has been passed by every other state and Victoria is the last one to get it. Now, can we make it clear that that is simply not true?
Go ahead.
That's not true.
So it's not true.
No.
So it's completely the other way around. We'll get it first, and then every other state will get it.
But what might be confusing within the community, states of emergency in other jurisdictions, they can happen monthly. So we have our legislation's written very differently, which virtually says our state of emergency can only be a 6-month period, and that's why we've had the extensions and the extensions, where they can actually have a rolling one. So people confuse that. Because, if you had a bushfire or floods, or you would have a state of emergency within that month, you would expect that you get it under some kind of control, and that's normally how it would roll. But this is quite extraordinary that they've decided, rather than, and I don't know about you, Guzzy, I would have somehow preferred that they wrote specific legislation rather than what they've done in this way of a dog's breakfast is trying to amend the current act.
I hear what you're saying, because you being in the medical world and you having been in local government, you're one of these people that likes to cross the T and dot the I. You like clarity and specificity. I understand all of that. I'm saying something more than that. I'm saying that this is beyond specificity. This is about the destruction of people's basic civil liberties. And you can be as specific or as vague as you like. It's still a destruction. And that is what troubles me about all of this.
And I 100% hear what you're saying, because my legal counsel has, since she's read it, has not slept.
Yeah, me too.
She wants me to throw it through a shredder. Where I also have within my staff another legal practitioner, and she is looking through it to see if there was some way of amending it. Like I said, so having a possible structure where you can have independent people on that, as in experts and professionals in the way of local government. You'd have the head of the MAV, or but how you would write it in a way saying, well, we need the head of local government, or local governments, or we need, you set up a mayor's, or you set up all the GPs. You would write it in a way which would be a proper playbook for a pandemic.
But that's the other thing. But
it's like an organizational kind of structure, a bit like what I would have in the army. So in the army, that's how you would, you know what I mean? You're organizing an event. You write it in a way which is virtually.
But no one has yet defined what a pandemic is.
I know. I do not disagree that this is rubbish. It should go through a bin. It actually looks like they put Fiona Patton, the Greens, and the Animal Party in a room. Said, "What do you want? I want something that says animals." Okay, we write that in.
That's right.
I want something about climate change. I want something. That's what it looks like. It seriously, when you read it, it makes no sense. It's like some, I don't know, like work experience.
Can I ask there just for a sec?
It's horrible. I agree. I totally agree. But I'm trying, in some way, not to.
You're trying to be constructive. I understand that.
I am.
Before we go there, can I ask? It seems that the Law Association, or whoever they are, these barristers can see it. I have another barrister friend who's a bit chicken to come on the show. He says Dan is just a dictator. And at this park today, I've met ordinary people who literally would struggle, like me, to read a contract. Does my head in. They know it in their guts.
All of them.
They know it. They can see it. They go, this is really dangerous. This is really bad. They can get it. Everyone can see it. Why can't the Greens see it?
Because they've been bought off.
But also, too, they've been part of this process. So some of that stupid, loose language about, cultural and colour and those kind of things, you can see that they've added it. But they've added it in such a clunky way that they don't understand the ramifications of how they've actually placed it in there. This is not warm and fuzzy language that you use. This is actually this is correct.
Fingerprints are all over. So what's Patton got in all of this? What's her stake in this?
Well, she's come out today and written to The Age saying that she agrees. So she feels, because she's been part of. You would have to ask her directly.
She agrees. She agrees it's a good bill.
No, apparently what I heard when I was driving from Footscray Park to here, on Tom Elliott, he was actually saying that she's written to the Age and she said that she's going to be supporting this bill.
Support the bill. Okay.
Yeah, she's made that clear. And she's
So
also
she's
very
made it
upset
clear.
because she's got all these hate
But
messages.
but for myself, I don't know. I can only talk about my business. I can't talk about her business. Yeah. We all know, as other members of the non-government, that none of us were part of these discussions or deliberations or formation. Yeah, that's right. So there was only those three. And when you read it, you can actually see, because it's so flowery, the language, rather than practical legal terminology, as I said, some kind of playbook or a pandemic plan, or what you would use in a hospital or others, but in legal terminology on how you would use things, because you can see that during this pandemic that the Health and Wellbeing Act, it had problems. But I would have written something different, totally different. So yes, totally put it through the shredder. Looking for amendments.
Can we move to this question? Because at the moment, I don't know if you're aware, but there's a video that has gone viral like crazy, and it's terrifying a lot of people.
So
I actually contacted a Major General, because one of my players was touring with the army, so I contacted him for clarification. And what she wants to know is, would the military just follow orders even on their own people? There is stories going out that the soldiers have been trained to go into people's houses and drag them out. Now, I don't know who the guy is doing it, but it's going viral. I can't believe that would be the case.
Can't believe what would be the case.
That Australian soldiers would do that to their own people. Why not? I can't. Well, the reason I can't is my turn. I met a lot of soldiers when I was touring the play, and I have great admiration for them. I just don't believe it. Catherine, you'll go.
Yeah. So I was a reservist for 10 years. So from 19 to my late 20s, I joined to become a medic to complement my Chinese medicine. They do a quite stringent test of you to be able to actually join. It takes a certain mentality. It takes you have to have a certain temperament to be part of it. So they will definitely weed people out that do not feel extremely patriotic towards their country. I know when I joined that, if I had to, I would happily go overseas and fight for other people's freedom. I was to protect my fellow Australians. There'd be no way, if you know anything about the Anzac spirit or anything about our history, we are known as peacekeepers. We are known to take our dead with us. We are known to be compassionate to the wounded and to others,
and to be very fair as well,
and to extremely fair. So, and for yourself,
I had a soldier that told me. Sorry, go ahead.
So for me to finish, Michael. So for myself, all of my friends went to Afghanistan. So I've got friends who are my age, 49, who have done 5 or 6 tours over the last 20 plus years. Yeah. And they've come back to this at the pandemic, like dropped their bags off the plane and gone, why is Australia divided? How come we've got borders in between New South Wales and Victoria? They're coming from Afghanistan going, what has happened? What's going on? Who's running this place?
That's right.
Like, in
answer to your question, Michael, first of all, look, my son-in-law, by the way, was in the army, and I agree with wholeheartedly. He's horrified by what's going on as well. But I think that, do soldiers follow orders blindly? The answer is clearly no. And there are very, very specific laws about what you can and can't do as a soldier. You cannot follow illegal orders. You can't do something that is considered illegal. Right. So if, for example, if one of these sergeants on the steps of Parliament tells his police minnows, when you arrest Michael, make sure the 6 of you pounce on his back and crush his face to the concrete and beat the living daylights out of him as you go along. That
Don't give them ideas.
And that's an assault, and they're allowed to say no. Okay?
Yeah.
So that's the first question. The second thing is, I think Australian soldiers, I don't think they have the stomach for this. This is not what they've been signed up to do.
No.
I
there are
find
people.
But there are those that will. There are some that will.
I believe there are that will. But I'm going to get to Louise back here just in a sec. But that said, Gadi and Catherine, we would never have thought that the police would open fire on unarmed protesters, and now we've seen it. So at the moment, our belief system is really coming down to faith. And so I have faith that the Australian soldiers, the good majority of them, like 99.91%, would simply go, there's no way I'm doing this. And that's why I'm discounting that thing. Now, Louise Back said everyone can see it, but the media won't show the truth. And I was going to this to Melanie. I think it's Melanie. Said I'd mention her tonight. Gadi told me, Gadi's been teaching us how to protest because we were not.
Oh, thanks, Michael. And the police are downstairs now.
That we hear first, mate. But they, and so people have been throwing things at the Channel 7 guy, and Gadi's suggestion was don't throw anything, don't hurt them, but harass them. And we saw the Channel 9 people today.
No.
I'll explain you verbally. So we went to the Channel 9 people today. They were filming the parade, and we knew they'd make a mockery of it. And I was going up to them going, why don't you say the truth? Come on, just, why don't you show what's here? Why don't you, they're shooting people in the streets. And there was a group of us doing it. And we didn't get close enough, but we were all doing this. And they were just looking away, and they kept turning away, and they kept turning away. Whenever it was, there was other protesters doing it eloquently, but really demanding, come on, why don't you tell the truth? Finally, this reporter looks to me and says, what does she say? She says, well, what do you expect me to say? And just me and about 4 others went, the truth? It was amazing. It was an amazing moment.
In defense of what you just said about harassing, I've never said anything about harassing, but what I have
said... harassing, well, whatever.
But let me be clear so that the audience can understand. What the protesters need to do is to get smart about how they protest. This is something that people of the 60s and 70s, which I'm a child of, understand. For example... Or learned. Right. I could, if, for example, 1,000 people stood there with a whistle in their mouth blowing, that would drive the police nuts. Or if everyone had a pot and a pan tapping as they did in Denmark, that would also be.
And they won in Denmark.
Right. Or if everyone wore, for example, one of these rubber ducky floaties, that I have to wear a floaty in case you drown, that sort of stuff, that would make a point as well. And there's nothing wrong with standing face to face with a policeman, 100 policemen standing in line, 100 protesters standing in line face to face, talking to each policeman one-on-one, telling him what you think in a nice, quiet, polite way. There's nothing wrong with that. That will make the police people understand that this is the people speaking, that we have feelings, and it will impact on their heart and soul as well. That's what I'm talking about. That's the sort of, and that's very peaceful and very calm. That's the sort
I was just talking about the media,
But Michael, and Michael, with the media, right? You should know how the media works, right?
They want we've had lessons.
I'm just saying, they want visuals, yeah. So I remember a protest about trucks in Yarraville, and what they did, the MTAG, Maribyrnong Truck Action Group, came to the steps of Parliament with little matchbox cars and put them on every step. There were hundreds of it.
Yeah.
The media came, took a photo, they got a beautiful visual, made their point. They put it on their little 2-minute clip, trucks in Yarraville protest. They got their visual. You don't need to yell, scream, and what have you. They actually want a visual. So what like Guzzy, what you were saying earlier about like the rubber ducks and those kind of things, they want visuals.
That's right.
So you're saying if they're giving didn't they have a visual when they were shooting us on the shrine? They didn't use that one. It's not a nice enough visual.
No, but
what
also
you're saying is they're not lying. It's just that if they don't have a nice visual there. Because at the moment, Catherine, at the moment, I know you've got friends with them, but at the moment they are seen by many as the enemy of the people, and I think that's why, like Avi was here today, Rukshan, Morgan, these guys are being heralded. That's why I think and that's just only in Melbourne. That's why I think there's this huge rise of indie reporters. That people see to trust, because they simply do not trust these lying corporate journalists.
And Michael, that's right. People now have, and we've been home for so long that we actually have that time. We're not like racing in the car going to work this and 100 appointments, those kind of things. So people have actually had the time to be able to watch long media for an hour or even longer, or YouTube videos and those kind of things, or read or those kind of things. So there has been a lot of that going on in lockdown. With the mainstream media, no, it's not just about visuals, but for them, they have a producer. They are told to go out to capture certain images, so they know to produce it, so they can actually put it in their 3-minute grab. They need a visual of the protesters at the animals. They're told in the locations. Why did the mainstream media not come to Footscray Park first? They went around and made sure they got their visuals of people coming through the gates in their beautiful outfits, then making sure they had their visuals of the animal protest, then like down the ranking order, oh, that's right, there's a bunch of other people protesting at the back gate at Footscray Park.
The dirty unwashed.
Oh, you know what I'm saying? So but these reporters, they have got producers, they are told. Then they've got a list. You've got the Premier's conference, he's cutting a ribbon over there. So-and-so's cat's up a tree, and they have to have a nice soft one. They have to have something nasty, federal.
I understand that, Catherine, but at the moment they are actively working against anyone who questions the narrative. I mean, I know that girl in Home and Away, or one of those shows, who did a thing that she wouldn't take the vax, has just been harassed like crazy. Has been made to feel like a leper. Now she's actually gone and got the vax. I'm not saying it wasn't her choice, but they've been savage, and they're just outright lying. Even like with that doctor in Colac. I mean, I recorded a 15-minute interview with a man that was there. It was hauntingly beautiful. It was almost like a Schindler's List moment. Everyone was getting the exemptions, and Channel 9 nicked 5 or 10 seconds of it and made it sound like he was appalled with the doctor. I mean, it's just outright absolute lying, which goes against all the ethics of journalism. And the same thing is happening with the doctors. This is why we're joking now. It's not the Hippocratic oath, it's a hypocrite oath, because there's a patient, there's doctor, and there's the government in between, and the doctors go with the government and the patient go to hell. There's things today there's a person up here who was already put on, her schizophrenic brother won't get jabbed, can't get his medication. I mean, it's just, at the moment, there is a breakdown of these institutions. It's just staggering, morality has just gone flying out the window.
And what you're seeing is correct. There used to be, I don't know, journalism was up there on a pedestal in the way of making sure you were reporting the truth, that you investigated, that the story was correct. This was extremely solid. Your sources. That's these days, and
these days it's first.
Yeah, and Michael, what's deteriorated was that you had those local papers, you had those local journalists. It's now gone online. Even the photographers, they are all freelance. So even the photographers that were at the protest, they only get a couple, like $10 for a photo. it's who they sell that photo to who actually makes the money on social media and those other platforms. It's like they profit off the artist. So there's a watering down, and so yeah, and the dailies.
It's not a watering down, Catherine. It's worse than watering down. I mean, I remember when one of the last lockdowns where it was you were free to travel. I drove to Castlemaine, listening to ABC, and ABC were basically everyone they got on. This is for vaccine passports were in was going, "Oh, I'm so looking forward to vaccine passports." They were talking to whoever that woman is, and there was not one single dissenter for the entire show at all. Everyone was just the choir. Everybody called him was the choir, and I was just thinking, my God. And that's why I don't listen to this stuff anymore. It's just absolutely, they're supposed to hold a mirror up to the government. Are we doing the right thing? This and that. Nothing. It's the choir. And then the theatres are the choir of it. The music industry is the choir of it.
She's busting to say something.
Sorry, go ahead, Catherine.
It used to be balanced. They used to use balance. They used to show both sides of the story, both sides of the argument. Yeah. So in these times, and I get front row tickets, I get to see it. So what I'm witnessing, and which should not occur, when you know that what's coming out of their mouth is an outright lie, why are you repeating the lie? Why are you allowing that lie? They want you to have the grab. They repeat the certain language terminology, and you're repeating it. You know it's incorrect, even though you've captured it. Why are you repeating the lie, media? I don't understand.
The answer to that question, a couple of things. First of all, the media has lost its honesty, and one has to ask ourselves: follow the money. Who's profiting by this? I don't know the answer to these questions, but what I do know is mainstream media, not only in Victoria but worldwide, has so far gone down the tube. No one's interested in them anymore, and that's why podcasters are becoming so popular, because they give a voice of courage and a voice of truth. Now, that's the first point. The second point is in relation to what you said, Michael, with people who are, ringing up to say, hurrah, hurrah, let's get the vax passport. One of the things that's occurred in the last few years is there's been so much brainwashing and narrative pumping throughout societies, all societies, but in ours, we're talking about Victoria now. People have become, their minds have become parasitized. Completely parasitized. It's like a parasite has entered their brain and they don't function anymore properly. And so they're picking up the phone and saying, "Oh yeah, let's get the vax passport. Terrific. We'll all be free and we'll have a great time." Their mind stops thinking. It's parasitized. There's no critical thinking. There's nothing beyond it. Sorry, go on, Catherine.
Yep, and I would say.
You have a question, Catherine? You got your hand
up? No, because just so that I'm not interrupting.
Go ahead. No, I'm kidding.
We interrupt.
I would actually say they're parroting. They're repeating. It's the propaganda.
But why? That's the question. Why? And I'm saying to you, they're parasitized. Their brains something's entered their head to stop them thinking and to start using newspeak. It's a form of newspeak, and it's groupthink.
Correct, and that's parroting, isn't it? They're parroting the narrative, which is parroting the propaganda.
That's right.
And somewhere
but the real question
within all of this is why the media, and I can assure you, when they've questioned me, the questions aren't that good. And when you actually call them out, they question you in a way. They want a particular answer.
That's right.
So they don't even want the truth. They don't actually want you to say your opinion or the truth.
I understand. These Dorothy Dix questions come all the time. When we were kids, I read the book Lord of the Flies. And some of you have read it. And I also read Animal Farm. Okay. Yeah. This is part of the significance of these stories is that it teaches us all about newspeak and groupthink and what it means. In Nazi Germany in 1939, most people went with the narrative. We see all these visuals of people standing on the street, hailing Hitler as he goes down the cavalcades. We see lots of beautiful footages But we also know that people were afraid to speak. The ordinary people at home were afraid to speak. They knew what was going on, but they didn't want to get taken to a concentration camp as well. So people have become afraid to speak, and they become part of the group think. And it's 100% of society, Michael, Catherine, 90% comfortably sit back and don't do anything because they're afraid. Whatever the reasons are, they're afraid. Of the 10% remaining, 5% know it's wrong. They say it's wrong, but they don't do anything. And the other 5%, they actually do something. And these are the people who were the partisans who fought until they got shot by the regimes, right? The people who, and all the other people who were on the beaches of Normandy, storming the troops of Normandy, they were the ordinary, everyday, dirty, unwashed, the sons and daughters of the dirty, unwashed, the deplorables, the serfs, who gave their lives to give us this freedom we now have, that we are literally pissing against the wall.
Well, we don't value our freedoms. Catherine, at the march the other day, this is a question I forgot to ask you. Once you and David had spoke, I think she works for you, the girl with the black hair, and you basically went, okay, let's finish the meeting. That's what seemed to happen. What happened there?
Oh, I can explain all of that. No one works for me. I was there all by myself. So obviously there were two protests. So one met down at the Treasury Gardens and the other met at the library. So I was at the Treasury Gardens, and I'm guessing that David might have been at the library, or he might have just
he wasn't with us.
Up.
He must have met us there. I didn't see him.
Yeah. So when I was at the start of the parade or the protest or the rally, when I walked down, it was a lovely little gathering at the gardens. So I didn't really think there was that too many people. I thought we were peacefully marching down Flinders Street. We went up Russell and down Burke straight to Parliament. I really had no idea that the other protest came. So what was happening was they had organised, those organisers had organised that they were going to do these speeches, and then they're going to unlock the road and everyone was going to go back down to the gardens.
Okay.
But with everything, they didn't realise there were the other group that were there that actually had the list of other speakers. So it became like we thought this was all what was happening, and rather than we didn't realise, or the organisers, this is what I hear from the organisers, that the other people wanted to speak. And can I say one more thing, Michael? I want to apologise because I at one stage went to the very end of the protest. I was just down the steps of Parliament, and I was actually talking to Mary, who is the older woman that was pushed over.
I talked to her too.
Yeah, so I was actually standing at the back there with her group and her prayer group and other people there, and I felt the need to apologise to her. Anyway, I could kind of hear you speaking, but from the very edges of the protest, it's very hard to hear the one little speaker. But when the violin,
I was doing bingo. It was just bingo. I was the bingo guy. I was just calling.
Don't worry, I watched you later, Michael. I watched the whole protest later, so don't worry, I didn't miss it. What you had to say, and other people. But then, when the violin started to play,
you started singing.
I started singing. It went straight to my heart. I didn't get the memo of it was meant to be.
I knew it was you. I could hear you. I think, shut the fuck up, Catherine.
Well, I think a lot of people thought that, but they didn't really. So Michael, for me, this whole pandemic. Now, I've got to hear me out. Every time we've been unlocked, I've been able to go to citizenship ceremonies where it's one of the most beautiful privileges to be able to go to local councils to see people become Australians. This whole pandemic, I've attended these citizenship ceremonies and we've had masks, and we were told we're not allowed to sing the national anthem. In a big room, everyone's social distance, the band or whoever was playing the music.
Silence.
So when I heard that violin, I was like, oh my goodness, I'm able to sing my national anthem, and I'm walking through the
When
silent.
you're at
Thinking,
these when you're at
why are you
these
not singing?
when you're at these events now, do the new immigrants actually go, is there a cooling off period on this contract now before I become a citizen? Just in case just in case I want to actually have a free thought that might go against the narrative.
But
Okay,
I
look,
want you to
we're just
understand,
gonna.
all jokes aside about all of this, I am one of those people. I was naturalised as an Australian. I came to Australia in 1965. So I regard myself as a dinky die Aussie. I've been here since 1965. That's a damn long time. But I have an acute understanding of where I come from and what my parents had to undergo for us to get here. And I also have acute understanding of law, economics, and philosophy. So I get all of that and put it all together. And what I'm telling you is Australia is going down the toilet. It's literally going down the toilet. I know people who are leaving this country, people who've been here for a lifetime, who've made money, who've built family. They're leaving this place. No one wants to live in a totalitarian
loads of
regime.
people are planning, and not the state, the country. So I'm going to wrap it up now, because
certainly out of Victoria, but out of Australia as well.
Yeah, but we're going to leave it now. So, Catherine, my thing is that we've still got to the 16th. We're protesting every day. The protest today was good. This last Saturday one was great. I'm suggesting if you want to come to the protest this Saturday, come. Bring a friend this Saturday. They're going to be, Markin's going to be there. I'll get you in a sec.
What is she pointing to, Michael?
She's pointing to the people to approach.
These are your upper house members.
These are the villains. The villains.
No. These are people who you've elected 3 years ago in 2019.
And we need one ALP to actually...
Or two.
Or two ALPs.
I want 5 of them. I'm greedy, Michael.
But
I
we need
want
at least,
of them.
at least 2 to actually value democracy and freedom and Australia and vote with that, rather than just voting the loyalty for the party. So we need their loyalty to be with us, not the party.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I want half of them to do it. I want half of them.
If you send me that picture, I'll post it and it'll get known that they who are the ones, and we're going to put down how they're going to vote. I'll do that, because
everybody who votes.
What I'm going to do,
we need to have a wall of shame for people that are going to destroy our democracy.
On my way home, I'll drive past and stick it in your letterbox.
I can come outside and wait. You can stick it somewhere else. There's now, but to leave now. I'm just going to say Saturday there's a massive march. Hopefully at Parliament House in the morning. Markin will be there playing the violin. So if you missed it, you have to be there. Dr. Oosterhouse said it the other day. He captured the frequency of the country with that violin.
I sing? I want to know if we're allowed to sing the national anthem.
Well, no, the reason why we're having it quiet, the reason we did it is to actually come together and weep, because this is how it sounds on the edge of democracy. So once the bill gets crushed, then we can sing our hearts out. And then once we finish there, we're driving to Geelong, because there's got a second big march in Geelong. And Damien Richardson from this show is the MC of that. So we're driving up in a convoy of freedom to Geelong. So Saturday could be a really, really big day. If you want to find us, just follow the helicopter and all the police. No doubt they'll be behind us.
And Michael, can I send my apologies already? Because I have booked in tomorrow on that Saturday morning to pick up my son's school uniform for high school next year.
That's okay.
He wants to try on his uniform.
You're going to screw up the whole thing if you're there anyway with your singing. You're just going to kill them. Now
that I've got the memo, now that I know the reasons behind, and absolutely it was beautiful. But I am seriously, Michael, I am not a perfect woman. I try my best.
We commend you, Catherine. We commend you for coming on the show. We commend you for having the courage to speak your mind openly and to listen to what we have to say and to
let us rejoice, for we are young and free.
No, we're not. We're not free. Don't lie.
And well,
Don't force us to live in a lie. That's what tyranny does.
Goodbye, sea.
And good. What the hell does that mean?
Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty, rich and rare. I sound like the tone-deaf poor boy who was singing today.
Yeah, that's all right.
But the violin does do a better job, and it absolutely, it's amazing how those instruments go straight through you.
Yeah.
Well, that was
but
the point,
I will
Catherine.
have the opportunity to sing
It
the
was
national
a
anthem
musical
on
metaphor.
November 11, which is Remembrance Day. So I'll have that opportunity there. But I don't feel, it's like saying to somebody, you can't wear the flag or you can't fly your flag out the front of your house. I struggle with somebody telling me I can't sing it, but with due respect,
the reason we did it
I'm just saying, Michael,
was to make a dramatic point, because that video. But that video. Let me finish.
It's beautiful.
That video has gone round the world, and the world is crying over that. And the fact that we're not singing is why they're crying.
Yeah,
that's what they're doing it. That's the point. What it's called is theatrics.
Yep.
And theatrics with Pete. That's what it means. Because if you sing it now and say we are young and free, you are lying. And you're asking us to do the same lie. That's with that other song, The Seekers, where the Seekers go, we are one and we are, that song. We should refuse to sing it until segregation finishes, because that too is a lie. It's an absolute lie. And what I know, even though I'm catching up quickly, tyranny cannot survive in the truth. It requires a lie. It wants a poster that everyone's happy and people aren't happy. And at this protest today, I'm going to tell all the Australians out there, because I know Channel 9 and all them will be saying they were rat bags. I met so many people today who had lost their jobs yesterday, today, or they're going to lose it tomorrow. They're walking away with their freedom and integrity and their lives destroyed. And I was actually going to not do a sad thing to the start. I actually thought, I'm not going to try uplifting. But when I was leaving to get on my motorbike, there was a young man just sitting on the stone steps. And I went back and I said, "Are you okay?" And he said, "No." He said, "I'm completely lost."
The last thing
I sat there with 20 minutes with him talking, and he just said, "I'm so lost." He wasn't even at the protest. He was just sitting.
Just there.
The parting thing that I want to say to every listener who's listening on this, whether you are listening live or whether you're listening on a podcast later on, this is not about a vax. All right. Yeah. Whether you want to take a vax or not is your choice. I'm not pro-vax. I'm not anti-vax. And you can do whatever you like. You do you and I do me. This is about totalitarian control of society.
That's right.
Rebuilding society into a shape that there's no voice to anything. It's vax today, mandatory vax I'm talking about. And tomorrow, God knows what else is coming, because this legislation opens the Pandora's box to the worst nightmare. And that's the problem. That's the only reason a lawyer of 42 years experience is coming out in this way, right?
That's right. I couldn't afford him on this show if he didn't care about this.
And Michael, and just reply to what you've said. It's hard to hear that in the way that it would hurt my heart not to sing the song, and that's not the point. It is more that what you're saying is 100% correct. How can you put your heart behind those words when they're not true at this moment?
That's correct.
And for myself, hearing what you were saying, it was actually, I was just sitting there really, it was just breaking my heart, because it was me realizing that you are 100% right, that how can you sing that song when we aren't free? We can't move around Australia. We can't get out of the house. We can't jump on a plane. We're not free.
You can't go to a cafe unless you can. At the moment, if you do not have the right to say no, you're not free. That's simple as that. You don't have the right to say no, you're not free. And at the moment, the cost of saying no is to have carnage. And if you otherwise you're complying, and if you comply, then you're handing over your freedom, and they're never going to give it to you back.
You've given away your medical sovereignty. If you give sovereignty of your body to the state, if you give your sovereignty of your body to the state, you've got nothing left. because after your body there is nothing left. There's only your mind, and they've already got your mind where they want it.
Well,
so
Channel 9, yeah.
Anyway,
I
think I'm going to get off the show and have a cry, because I'm really sad to think. It's breaking my heart to think that.
Why do you think we're fighting? Well, if you want to fight for something, fight for the fact that if we all stand up and fight together, because they did it in Denmark, they won by standing up. Bring people to the marches. If we all get up and fight together, then eventually we can sing that song and mean it, and that's when we should sing it again. Once we are free. And I'll go out with the violin again. I know everyone's seen it loads of times, but I'll go out because it makes a point here. This bill is wrong, and we have to fight it any way you can. We'll be doing it in protesting. You can do it by sending politicians, shaming them, anything you can. We must get, how many politicians? 2? We must get 2 upper house politicians, at least 5. We must get 5 to turn. If they don't, then they are signing the death sentence for everything we hold dear, and that's where we are now. We're getting close.
Don't go away.
Thank you for coming on, Catherine. Thank you so much. Stay there. Thank you, Gadi. And here we go with my great friend Markian and his rendition of our song.
The vote gets passed. The vote gets passed. Markian, everybody listen to the power of music. Silence. Go.